Hey everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
Welcome to the Tara Show. Hey, you're the one that's got the name that begins with T. You even have the R. I mean, it's the closest. I mean, the Taraman Show, I guess. But yes, we're going to talk about the Truman Show, which was actually a vote winner. Not the regular Ace vote winner. We now have a $10 vote on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV every month. Two shows from the Atomic Cinema Experiment, which is this, our sci-fi movie podcast, go up against two movies from Screams After Midnight, the horror movie show that I do with Tim. And for the second month in a row, an Ace option won the vote. And
yeah, you really need to put better movies on the Screams option, apparently.
So, Truman Show was the winner. The theme of the vote was 1998. It was all four movies were from 1998. Why? Because I thought of it, basically. That's the answer. So we'll start spoiler free, and we'll give you a warning before we get into spoilers. Truman Show came out in 1998, of course, as I just said, and is directed by Peter Weir, who is a very notable filmmaker. I know Tara loves Master and Commander, Far Side of the World.
Definitely in my top 10, if not my top 5.
Yeah. Peter Weir is one of these sort of directors that I think I probably discovered through the Truman Show, and then over time kind of, checked out different things. It's been a while since he made a movie, actually. I assume he's probably I don't know if he's officially retired, but he's pretty old dude now. So the last movie he did was The Way Back in 2010, which I saw in theaters, which I went to see because it was a Peter Weir movie, and by that point I cared. But he did Picnic at Hanging Rock, and he did Witness with Harrison Ford, and
I like that movie a lot, Witness.
Yeah, so he's done some notable stuff. And it is a science fiction film. It's maybe not the most laser blast time travel-y science fiction film. It's a very low key science fiction film, but science fiction all the same. Although, admittedly, some actual TV shows have gotten scarily close to what the Truman Show is, that we're almost at the point where it's not really science fiction anymore. But it was when it was made, and that's the important part.
I think this is probably the most Twilight Zone episode or movie that we've watched.
It feels
in
like
premise.
Yeah, it does. It feels like a Twilight Zone premise. And I say that positively. Like everything about it feels like it basically feels like an auteur, read like an unfinished Twilight Zone script and says, I can add some class to this and do a full movie out of it.
I guess it's a little bit like the one that we really liked from the first season with the actor who, like, all of a sudden his life is the movie, or no, it's like reversed. So
yeah, he thinks he's the character.
He hears cut from the director, and he kind of like wakes up, and he's in this world when he thought that the movie world was the real life. Yeah,
so definitely there's some parallels to certain episodes, and then the whole thing just feels like a Twilight Zone-esque premise. So what is the premise of Truman Show, if you're unfamiliar with it? It is Jim Carrey stars as Truman, and he is the world's first ever kind of corporate owned person, in that he was adopted by a corporation and his entire life has been broadcast as a reality TV show where he is unaware that it's a TV show. He's unaware that everyone else is an actor. His parents, his love interest, his best friend, all the extras that are walking around, they're all actors. There's cameras everywhere. It's and this actually came out in 1998. This was like maybe 2 years before like the start of like Big Brother, which is maybe kind of the closest parallel in a lot of ways, because it's just like the fly in the wall watching people live kind of thing. Obviously they all know they're in a thing, but
yeah, I've never seen Big Brother. I don't know what that is. I've heard about it though.
I mean,
but there's also other reality shows that might have been around. Like, wasn't Survivor a thing already?
Yeah,
maybe not.
I don't know. I mean, I've never seen Survivor.
And then like MTV had a bunch of like, I don't know, young adults living in a house together, The Real World. That might have been on at the time. Seems like the right era for it.
Yeah. I think the reason why it's easy to compare it to Big Brother, apart from just the core premise, is that Big Brother, at least after a couple of years, there was literally a channel that had a 24-hour feed of the house. Like, it was that insane.
Wow.
Although what they don't tell you in Truman Show is that for legal reasons, they have to air it in a slight delay and mute tons of stuff. Because if it's during the day, they can't show any swearing. And then at nighttime, if they start saying things like, oh, Coca-Cola gives you AIDS or something like that, they're like, oh, we can't hear that. We can't let that sentence go out. We'll get sued. So they have to mute a lot of things to make it work. That was just a random example. I am no way suggesting that Coca-Cola does in fact give you a sexually transmitted disease. I'm pretty sure that's physically impossible. Physics does not allow it. But so yeah, so basically his whole life's a lie. He's in a TV show, and the story, of course, of the movie is him slowly sort of recognizing and starting to question his reality and realizing what he's in, and it's that journey that we follow, and that's the Truman Show. And I think what's interesting about this one is that this came out in 1998 at a time where I was probably really into Jim Carrey movies because I was a kid and I really liked, I liked the Ace Ventura movies, I liked The Mask, and I liked Liar Liar, Dumb and Dumber even. Jim Carrey was...
Of course.
Jim Carrey was, he's at his prime. Everything he was making was doing big business.
When Nature Calls holds up.
Yeah, probably. I don't know for sure, but
I don't know if there's anything funnier than Jim Carrey being birthed out of a rhino.
Yeah.
Maybe Vincent D'Onofrio's performance in Men in Black can come close.
Yeah. I'm not sure everything in those early Jim Carrey movies will hold up. I mean, I'm sure some do and some don't.
Oh yeah, probably.
But I think this one, when it came out, I probably didn't like it because I was 9 years old and expected a Liar Liar movie. And instead I got this satirical science fiction film, which at the time I just didn't get. This was one of these movies where I watched it again at about 17, 18, when I was a bit older and was starting to really get into film and care about things. It was like this, wait, this is freaking great. What was I thinking as a young child? This is amazing. What's going on? Which I guess spoils my opinion of the movie. Tara, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it is amazing. It not only does it hold up, but I think it ages really well, especially with YouTube and everybody putting their whole lives on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it is like people get bought out too. Like you watch like What I Eat in the Day, and it's all these people are like, oh, I love this mushroom coffee. Like, it sounds disgusting. So you're probably being paid to enforce that, but or promote it. It's really great. Like, it's such a cool premise, and I think it's really well directed. Like, I love Peter Weir obviously because of him. He's made one of my favorite films, but I think the direction, it has like the perfect amount of, this is still like a utopia that we see, even though everything we're watching is super dark and actually kind of a horror film from a different perspective.
Sure, yeah. No, but to go back to your first point, like this is kind of one of these weirder films that it's actually become more relevant as time has went on. So, like, shockingly, it was very predictive, and not that we have this exact thing, not that we have a big dome that's the second man-made structure to ever be visible from space, as they point out in the movie, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole set, but yeah, there's just little bits of this that have shown up in reality TV and then into YouTube and the way that media is consumed and how everything's 24/7 now.
Also, everybody has cameras on them all the time. Like, maybe they're not always on, but like we have listening devices. Like, if I say the words, "Okay, Google," like my phone lights up, my computer lights up. That thing just lit up back there, my Google Home.
Tara, I think we should talk about how many Google products you...
I mean, I've already accepted that I'm being watched.
Okay.
Although this movie, when I first saw it, I was in middle school when it came out, and it did like make me paranoid. not to the point where I actually thought that that people were watching me, but it was one of those things like, if I were being watched, I really want to make sure I'm not doing anything stupid. Like, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of made me a little bit honest. That's odd to say.
Honest.
Like, it helped with my integrity.
Okay, all right, okay.
Just in case.
So you don't really mean stupid, you mean doing something you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Because I would argue that being true to yourself would be doing something stupid anyway. Like, I don't care if someone's watching. I'm going to do my silly dance in the mirror.
I mean, this movie brings up a lot of points like that. Like,
yeah, it does.
Are you really being yourself if you know you're being watched? Or, I mean, it's a very thought-provoking film. Like, way more than I was expecting when I watched it this time. Because I don't think I've seen it since the theater.
Oh, really?
But it really, all the scenes. I guess it's a movie that did stick with me because none of it seemed new when I was watching it.
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
exception of maybe the details.
Yeah, like it's just one where a lot of the major beats kind of stick in your head. I've seen it a bunch of times now because I sort of rediscovered it, like I said, like 17 or whatever, and then bought the DVD, watched it there, bought the Blu-ray, watched it there. I think I probably saw it like on TV a couple of times. Like it's one of these ones that I kind of kept coming back to once I sort of discovered how much I loved it, and it's one that's sort of so rich with details and and it's very quirky and funny with how it presents a lot of its details. But because it's satire, like you say, if you look at it from a certain perspective, it's kind of horrific. The way that they kind of try and make sure he can never leave the island by constantly either blocking him, like the visual that's always stuck in my mind.
Or giving him like a lifelong fear.
Well, there's that, yeah, but the visual that's always stuck in my mind since the first time I saw it is when he's sitting in like the travel agents, and there's a poster next to his head of a plane getting struck by lightning saying it could happen to you.
It's really funny. There's also like a poster of like beware of travel because of like rabid dogs and like disease and all these other things that it can happen to you, gangs.
Yeah, it's super manipulative, and it's I think what I do forget sometimes is how late in the film it is before you actually get to see the characters who like in the outside world who control it. But obviously the film does open with a shot of Ed Harris, who is the showrunner, as it were, and he's got a little bit of a monologue there, but after that you do not see him again for like an hour. Like he's gone for a long time, and we just stick with Truman, and it's all from his perspective. And I mean, not all. I mean, there's like the odd cutaway to an audience member, but people controlling stuff we don't see again.
He's
for a long
the
time.
puppet master.
Yeah, he's the one pulling the strings.
Pull the strings. I just wanted a reason to say that.
Okay, all right. I don't get that reference.
Whatever.
So yes. So basically, the kickstart of the plot is that a light falls out of the sky, like a big sort of studio light, lands in the road, right in front of Truman's house, and it's kind of it's just weird. It's a bit odd.
Yeah, it's interesting because we don't really know about the dome yet.
Yeah, that's not till later. Yeah.
But like but he picks up the light. It's a studio light, and it's labeled like Sirius Canis Major, which is a star. So presumably all the stars are just studio lights.
Which is actually a really inspired little detail, to be honest. All the stars
there's a lot of them. I was reading the trivia and I didn't notice this one, but on their kitchen counter is a big like thing of vitamin D, which you have to take if you don't get sunlight, because he never gets real sunlight.
There you go. That's actually pretty funny. Nah, because the stuff that always sticks out to me once I got older was like just like all the product placement. Like something as simple as like the extras who purposely always push him up against the poster, so there's like a shot of him standing next to this poster.
Right.
And just little things like
or
that.
His friend.
Get fun.
That's a beer.
Do you know what I love about the performances of everyone but Jim Carrey? Well, not the control people, but everyone else in the world and in the town, is that there's this kind of duality to it where they're playing, the role of his wife or the role of his best friend, but they also have this extra layer of, well, they're actually playing an actor playing the role of his best friend, or they're playing an actor playing the role of his wife.
Yeah,
and it adds
it does come off as that, like when you watch a movie inside of a movie and everyone's just a little bit bad.
Yeah. Or more specifically in this, it's like everyone's a little bit too happy and perfect.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, why would you ever want to leave? It's perfect. Look at that sunset. There's no place like this, Truman.
Yeah.
In fact, one detail that stuck out to me this time that I'd kind of forgotten. I always remembered this moment, but I didn't, like, the visual itself I'd forgotten, is that they're looking through a family album at one point, and the idea is that they've basically planted fake memories in the photo album so that he thinks he's left the town as a baby, when he's too young to remember it. And there's a photo in front of not the Grand Canyon, the
Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore, and like it just looks. That's not Mount Rushmore. It doesn't look like Mount Rushmore at all.
He's like, I thought it'd be bigger because I think they were going for a forced perspective.
Yeah.
With just a tiny like stand. But it really looks bad.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it at all, and it's that fun and creativity. You get the sense that we're having a lot of fun doing this, even though they're doing this kind of strong satirical story about control and about being locked into your society and the controlling factors around you. And because I think this is equally about kind of predicting media and talking about how viewers view characters and view people once they're on TV and consume media, as it is also, you know, deconstructing just human beings. Like from Truman's perspective, the idea that he, like, his world is so fabricated around him, like the idea of he's being coddled by everything, and he thinks he has freedom, but he doesn't really have it. It's an illusion of freedom. And you know, so there's like two sort of branches of analysis to sort of go down with it.
Not to mention just all the ethical questions that come up with it. Just
like, because they keep talking about the wife keeps saying, let's try for a baby, and I'm like, when she signed up for this role, which by the way she signed up for it when she was like 17, because you know she their first meetings when they're in high school, like did she like say, yeah, I'm willing to have a kid for the show? Yes, I'm going to get pregnant and have a, unless the pregnancy is completely faked. That said, it can't be though, because Ed Harris at one point says we're going to have the first live on air conception.
Yeah. I mean, the Ed Harris character too, like he has this godlike complex. Like he's literally like in the sun.
No, it's the moon he's in, is it not?
He's in the moon, I think, and the sun. I don't know, because there's a scene where, like, I don't want to spoil it because it kind of comes up late, but like I don't think the sun's maybe his voice is coming through on through the sun.
Yeah, because I don't think the sun's a structure like the moon is, because the moon's literally the
you're right. We see the
TV studio and the gallery and the control rooms and all that. Because you know, it's basically the Death Star.
But he's like manipulating, like this is my world that I created, and like he has this godlike complex where he says something super dark at like the end of the film that we'll talk about, but like, and it is one of those things like, well, do we have the ability to manipulate the people on television based on what we want to see? Like, you know, ratings are going down, maybe they should have a baby, but there's like real, you know, moral implications there when it's real people who have to have like a real conception for a show.
Yeah. Even just the fact that every time Truman's had sex with his wife, it's all based on a lie. So the question of like how much of that is he really consented to when you really think about it? Because this woman's name that he knows is not her name. Like he's been presented a lie. So
I mean, I'm sure that happens all the time in reality.
Okay, sure, but there's a difference between a one-night stand where you give a fake name and you're both there for casual sex, and you marry the person and think you're spending your life with them, and all of it's based on a lie.
Yeah, and when you do have feelings for someone, like Men in Black show up and take her away.
Yes. Exactly, no choice. That's like... and yeah, I mean, there's even things you can sort of parallel to the idea of like someone's parents being like, no, that's not the girl for you. This is the girl for this nice rich girl from this family. We want you to marry her. Like,
or
there's parallels.
Like parents that have arranged marriages for their children.
So no, there's a lot of like these little details that can kind of speak to specific things, which is kind of what makes it such a good social deconstruction film in a lot of ways. You know, obviously Jim Carrey's a pretty good actor, and it's one of these things where I don't think anyone realized just how good he was until he started doing things like this and Man in the Moon, and you know, Eternal Sunshine was a few years later. Like he really kind of proved that he's actually a really good actor who can do a lot of good drama stuff, and he is, don't get me wrong, he's still quirky and funny in this to a point, but it's not like his previous films, not at all. It's in service of a dramatic point here.
A background in stand-up and impressions, like he's definitely funny. And there's going to be some of that if he does any kind of improvising in the film, I'm sure like it's going to be humorous. He knows how to react to something. He knows how to use his face. And it must be such a surreal experience for him as an actor, where everyone around him is kind of doing like this weird, like phony play acting, and he's like really acting, where he's like trying to actually be convincing, and everyone else is doing this fake. Honey, how about a bag of this coffee, which comes from the hills of blah blah blah? Who are you talking to? In fact, that moment where he turns around and goes, "Who are you talking to?" I use that gif all the time. Whenever someone like tries to over-explain something that clearly is not what I was talking about, I'm like, "Who are you talking to? No one asked for this debate. Go away." Also, like the idea of cameras being everywhere is like pretty, ahead of its time. Like maybe they already knew that was going to be happening, but like you can buy like smart devices that are always listening. Like your fridge can be a smart device now. It knows exactly what's in your refrigerator. Or I mean, we always walk around with our phones too, which have cameras on them, and people are so willing now to be a part of their own Truman Show and like upload what they eat in a day, or their room tour, or like their house tours, or I don't know, go shopping with me or vacation with me. And like it's like this, when you watch it at first, can make you paranoid. Like, I don't want to have a life in the spotlight, but there's so many people, and especially like the generation growing up now, who are just like, no, this is a way that you can make a living and you can just put it all out there.
Yeah, of course, the big key difference is that everyone doing it now has a choice.
I mean, they consent to it.
Yeah.
Although I don't think a lot of people really know what they're getting into when they do it. They just see, like, I can be a TV star.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that would be a good idea.
That's part of growing up, though, is, maybe doing stuff that you don't really quite understand before you realize.
That's true, yeah.
And yeah, sure, maybe if they could become famous enough, that could be something that'll be hard. It's hard to put that genie back in the bottle once you're successful enough, but
maybe we'll find out one day. Just kidding.
You heard her, folks. Shoot us to the moon. The fake moon with Ed Harris in it. And a surprisingly small role for Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, that's true. Wasn't he like a star already? I mean, he was in the Howard Stern film.
I don't think he was a star yet. I think he was like starting to be just get to that point where people were starting to know who it was. So I feel like that's just fine. His best friend's an actor that people know. I think he was on The Americans, so he's maybe more known now than he was back then. That's Noah Emmerich. Laura Linney plays the fake wife, and so yeah, we got a bunch of cast. In fact, we got Peter Krause from 6 Feet Under. Is like a guy that works at his job. Very minor role, but clearly this was before.
Oh, the guy that pushes the one like island house or something on him.
Yeah, that's him. That's from 6 Feet Under. That guy. So
I didn't recognize him. Oh, Paul Giamatti is like at the bottom of the list of actors on here. Why is that?
Well, to be fair, they actually split it into sections where all the people who are working the moon are like in a separate section from everyone. So there's actually like, extras from the main island, and then it's like the moon people, and then it's like the people who are watching at home, like all split up. So
yeah, you're right.
Because one of the people,
Ed Harris is actually right above him, and he's a big, obviously a huge character. So
because one of the people watching from home, the security guard, is Scully from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, looking like similar but very young. Like he looks much younger.
Is he the flat top?
Yeah, flat top. Yeah. So yeah, that was fun to see. But yeah, so cast is really good. I like the music a lot. I like kind of this weird,
me too,
hopeful piano thing that it's got going, where it feels like it's how to describe it? It's got this kind of hopeful, but kind of like sadness of it. It really feels like a weird coming of age movie because he finally gets to potentially break out of his bubble, his shell, his his nurtured life as it is. So all that stuff works really well.
He really didn't do very much, Paul Giamatti, before this film, actually.
Oh, there you go.
Like most of the, FBI technician in Donnie Brasco the year before. So I guess he was taking small roles.
Yeah, makes sense. I feel like he must be an actor that started relatively, unless he just never get any parts for a while, but it feels like an actor who started a little bit later in life compared to some people.
Well, let's see, his first one was 1990, and he played a heckler number 2. Looks like he had a hard time. Yeah. He was in singles. He played Kissing Man, a couple TV shows, Sabrina. He played a character in Sabrina.
Highlight of his career, I'm sure.
Yeah, I like that movie. I think once Truman Show came out, and I think 1998 is when it turned, because he was also in Saving Private Ryan that same year. And then the next year he was in Man on the Moon.
Oh, he's got a big part in Man on the Moon, actually, that you bring it up. He has a very big part in that, yeah. So, yes, this is the dawn of Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, he found his niche. You know, because I mean, he doesn't look like a leading man. Like, I get why he's not like in action movies and stuff. Like, he's not that type of actor. But he found his thing, and Hollywood began to appreciate him, and that's nice. So
yeah, he's a great actor.
So yeah, so I guess we're probably about ready to dive into the spoilers and go through the movie. So I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Alison M. Fordyce, Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Born Now, and Zammer Jammer. They are all $20 and above patrons. But you don't have to be a $20 patron, do they, Tara?
Why no? If you like what we do and want to support the channel, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MouthfuzzTV. And if you donate as little as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus films. So you can see what the fuss is about when it comes to the Transfer Saga, which we always bring up, and other B-movie adjacent films. And also you can get bonus episodes for other shows. So check it out. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get to vote on what we watch once a month. And you will also get access to our shows one day early. And if you donate $10 per month, you will get to vote also whether I do a review or Tim does a review with Peter for an extra film. So don't miss out and check it out.
Boom. The only thing that's missing from that is that you could have went more contextual with this one and like held up, like, I mean, I know you don't have transfers, but you could have held up the transfers Blu-ray and did your like, you can go to patreon.com today.
You wanted me to be Laura Linney in this?
Oh dear. Nah, you're more real. You're the one that got escorted out by the men in black.
Yeah, I'll take that comparison. She's all right.
So
I think this movie actually left kind of a bad taste in my mouth for Laura Linney after it, because she's actually really good in this film for the part that she's playing. But because she's so unlikable and she doesn't like help Truman out, I think I didn't like her in other films. I couldn't get her character from this movie and separate it.
Yeah, I get that. So, yeah, like I say, the movie starts, full spoilers, by the way. The movie starts with the light falling out of the sky. Basically, obviously, there's a little head Harris bit, who mentions that some people leave him on when they go to sleep because it's comforting. And that part stuck out to me as being very true to life, because I feel like more and more people do put something on when they're going to bed. Now, it might not be the same thing every night, and it's, you know, it's whatever. There's like some noise on to fall asleep to, but that part, I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Although in this case, it's literally a guy going to sleep, which was a bit unhealthy. Yeah, I love how they've got a camera. They've got a night vision camera just staring at his face as he's asleep. But you know, and he's got his little catchphrase that he says in the morning. You know, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, or good morning. In case I don't see you, good afternoon and good night. And then he throws his head back and laughs and all the rest of it. Yeah. No one can pull off that Jim Carrey kind of face except Jim Carrey.
I know, what a face.
But you know, and it goes around his normal day. He runs into the twins. He buys the magazine that he's getting. Although we see that he's doing something with it. He's like cutting out bits. I will say, Truman's obviously very likable and he's obviously sympathetic and all these things. I will say that the collage of magazine cutouts to try and rebuild the face of the true love of his life is a little bit on the creepy side.
Well, look at the environment he's in.
I mean, I know, but it just, the image itself is creepy to the point where seeing him sticking it together, I was like, wait, this is reminding me of him as the Riddler in Batman Forever. I'm getting like Riddler vibes from this.
That does sound familiar, actually. It's been a long time since I've seen that film.
It's boiling acid. Everyone remembers that line. So yeah. So, and he's, you know, and that's the start of the movie's quite smart because it sets up a couple of key things, because he's told he has to go and do this account. He's an insurance salesman. He has to go do this account on the other island, and he's hesitant. He tries to get out of it, but the guy talks him into it. And obviously they're trying to create drama, right? This is kind of do you know what I love about watching this movie is like, I kind of look at every scene as like, what are they actually trying to achieve with this? Because obviously a lot of it is just trying to stop him from leaving. But before that, there's like everything's got a purpose. It's like, what are they trying to do here? And it's always trying to create a story or drama, and like forcing them to try and go into a boat. So it's good for us as the audience in terms of this movie, because we learn, okay, he's got a fear of water, and it establishes that, and there's a big thing going forward. Especially since it plays a flashback of the
Yeah,
dad
I think
dying.
that was the point of the scene, is that they wanted to have a reason to do a flashback of the like greatest hits of him being afraid of water.
And so he hesitates, and he just sort of backs out, he chickens out, and this is one of the first time, it may not be the first time in the movie, but it's the first time I remember it cutting to like some people watching, and it's the people in the bar, the Truman bar, and they're kind of, the two waitresses or the bartenders are kind of watching it and being like, oh, he couldn't do it. There's something fascinating about this, especially when we get to the ending, about the fact that everyone watching it seems to be rooting for him to escape, which is kind of fascinating. Like that's the story that they ultimately always wanted, was him realizing where he is and breaking out, which is kind of a
because I mean, you can't help but think like, so if they have a baby, like they're pushing the baby thing, does the baby become the new Truman Show? And the cycle just continues forever and ever.
This is Ed Harris trying to franchise forever. He wants to be able to just switch over to the kid and have two main characters, and then when Truman dies eventually inside the dome, he can switch to the brat.
Dark.
Yeah. Surely it'd be harder to keep the secret going though, once you have to keep it convincing for two people, because we see that like people are moving around.
Yeah,
and always...
you think that it would be like, well, we have to either get Truman out of there, let him know what this has been all along, or you have to like kill him.
Given what Ed Harris does towards the end of the film, like it seems like
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it seems like he's willing to, like, you know what, a dramatic death is a good ending to my show. It's been a good run. It's better than I'm getting
the thing.
out.
Like that ending, like, okay, I'm just gonna jump to it real quick and we'll come back.
Okay.
But like, people are telling him, look, he it's unsafe. He's like on a boat in the water, and he's like, he could die. And Ed Harris says, well, yeah, but he was born on camera. Like, why can't he die on camera? Like, without any like emotion behind it when he says it. And it's just like, that doesn't matter. All that matters is that that he's in charge and that he controls the narrative of his show.
The key thing as well to me is that, like, they adopted Truman. They didn't buy Truman. They don't own Truman as a person. He's still, because in the TV interview at one point, someone says, what like, could you really keep him from leaving? And he says, oh well, the truth is that maybe he deep down doesn't want to really leave. He likes his cage, as you would put it. And he says that like, if he really wanted to leave, if he truly wanted to, we really couldn't stop him. Like he could ultimately get past everything we could do to stop him. He tries bloody hard though. Like, he really goes for it.
And they have some really like hilarious ways of stopping him.
Yeah, honestly, the only thing in this, obviously, like, it would take an absurd amount of money to achieve this dome and do everything, but everything technologically speaking seems possible. With I think the big exception is the weather control system is the one thing that feels a bit too science fiction-y.
Well, it breaks down a lot.
That's true. I mean, we do have wave machines in the real world, of course, but I don't know if we can quite make waves that big. But I mean, this is not a complaint. I'm just saying it's the only thing from a technological point of view that feels like, okay, we can't actually achieve that right now. Whereas everything else, I mean, pretty much we can. Like,
all right, now that we're done with the end of the film, let's go back to the beginning.
Yes, let's go back. Let's go back to kind of his like sneaking suspicions starting to come in. Because obviously he goes out with his best friend in the evening, where the beer's advertised, as you mentioned. That's a good beer. And because he said, I want to go to Fiji. I really want to go, Do you ever want to get out of here? And everything the best friend says is like, it's like, but so when do you want to go then? Like, you've got no plans. Like, everything's about trying to talk him out of it. Everything's about trying to like spin it so that he's not going to want to.
Like, who wouldn't want to leave this place? And it is like an idyllic, like, American city, apparently, like, of the time, like what a utopia would look like. It's more of like that 50s idyllic look, really. Yeah,
if anything, it doesn't look like the 90s. It looks like, I mean, they still have the modern tech of the 90s, but it looks like the 50s. It looks like a 50s idyllic white picket fence town.
Right.
Yeah. But so he kind of like, goes along with it, and they bond a little bit, and it's whatever. But it's the next day where things really take a big turn, because as he's going into work, as he always does, he said his thing to the neighbors, as he always does. His radio starts malfunctioning, and he starts hitting it, and eventually it picks up the one of the broadcast channels, or one of the, I say broadcast, one of the walkie-talkie channels that the crew's using for, like, it's like, hey, he's turning on 5th Street, you know, have those extras ready to stand by, blah blah blah. And there's that great moment where they realize that he might hear them, and they're like, oh, quick, change channel, and there's like a sort of, you know, there's the feedback, and you see every extra stop at the same time as their earpieces adjust.
Yeah.
And it's just, it creates this, and I love, part of what I love about the direction here, it's one of my favorite moments in the movie from a direction point of view, is the way, and the music as well, because the music starts going dun, 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 dun. It starts having this sort of pulse to it, and it goes to this wide shot, it starts to peel back as Truman's just walking through the town square looking around him, like he's really starting to suspect that something's not right, that his entire world is something phony about it.
Yeah.
And the camera's just pulling back, and it's just a really great moment where you feel what he's feeling, and it's told through the camera work and the music really well.
I love all the use of like the hidden cameras. Also, like there's a really cool shot when he's in his car where you can see like the reverse of the clock, like the hours. So you know where exactly in the car that camera is that's looking at him. It's just fun little details like that. Yeah, and like everything like looks a little bit too large. Like the class rings all have like a big dome on them, or like
yeah,
the pendant that his wife's wearing.
Yeah, that's the pendant. Yeah, like all that stuff's great, and I love. So he basically starts just trying to be random. Like he starts doing weird, wacky things, and no one reacts to him because they've all been trained to not react and pay attention to him. Right? They've all been trained to just let him do whatever he's doing, and only react if he directly interacts with you. And he starts to really sort of pay attention to no one noticing him and no one doing anything with him. And then he starts trying to be. He runs into a building that he doesn't usually go in. Right? He goes into this some corporate building, and the security is kind of looking at him as like he's going over that elevator, and they know that like there's nothing behind it, right? And you know they actually have he's got his back turned to it when the elevator door opens, and it's like the you know the craft area, not craft,
it's like a break room.
The catering area. That's what I was waiting for. Catering.
Oh, like craft services.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. But no, it's like, you know, we see like one of the extras who was just on the elevator, which presumably doesn't even go up. It just, you know, maybe you know, looks like it's going up and it doesn't. And she's like sitting there just having like a coffee or something. She's like, is that Truman? Oh, I need to move.
Well, actually, I think after the light, one of the things we get, and we get the flashback scene, is that he sees his father as a homeless guy.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And like the dad like takes his hat off and like wants him to notice him, and then all of a sudden like at first there was a lady with a dog buying Dog Fancy because they're trying to promote, obviously Dog Fancy paid for it. It's I mean I think I'm laughing because the scene the day before he goes to buy his paper, some like old guy also buys Dog Fancy. So anyway, it's funny, it's a funny detail. And she's got like her little dachshund with her, and then her and some other guy just take the dad away and leave the dachshund like running around on a leash by himself. So he knows like what he saw was completely crazy, but real, because there's still like a little dog running around without a leash now. And
yet no one reacted to it except him. No one was even paying attention to the fact that
so he sees his mom and he says, I saw dad. And she said, oh, I know, honey. I see your father all the time. Like she's totally prepared for this interaction. Was that
the same morning as him, the elevator stuff, or was that the day before?
I think the elevator stuff happens later.
That's the day after. Okay, so I skipped a day then.
Because that's the elevator thing happens, and then he goes and tells his wife about it because she works in a hospital where they're going to amputate a girl's leg because she was involved in an elevator accident in that building.
Yeah.
It's funny how they have these little nuggets. Oh, this is justified.
They keep trying to sort of retroactively sort of explain things that he's seen or do.
I think for the light, even she's like, "Did you hear on the news about a plane that like crashed in the air?"
Yeah, because I love this elevator moment, and then he runs over because I think the best friend mentions at one point that he refills vending machines. That's his job, and he sees his truck and he runs over and he tries to talk to him. And he's like, hey, watch, no one's reacting to anything I do, and he like claps, and he's like, and I saw my dad, by the way, I saw my father, he's alive. Yeah, I'll tell you about that later. And he does sound kind of crazy. We know he's honest, we know he's right, but he does sound like he's kind of out of it. And it's I think it's maybe the night he did see his father, or maybe it's this night. He's on the beach and it starts raining above him. And a part of me was thinking, like, what a mistake to make to only have the rain be on him and not the rest of the scene.
And then it moves around to follow him.
Yeah. I'm like, I almost want like a cutaway to the guy being fired who was controlling the rain, who's like, you little shit, you're out of here, right? You just gave him so much doubt.
Do you wish this was more like Cabin in the Woods, where we had more of the behind the scenes?
I think I like the way it holds back from it for like a lot of the movie, because I think the first time through it does give it this kind of mystique until you see them. But it's kind of like, I almost wish there was like an extended cut with all that stuff put back in that I could watch afterwards.
I think there are quite a bit of deleted scenes, but because I was reading the trivia, and like deleted scene A and deleted scene B shows this and this and this, and like, okay, well, I didn't watch it obviously because I mean I don't have the DVD, but also I wasn't interested in watching. I'd like seeing what, like, if the director chose to remove the scene because it would change a character's motivation, then it seems like a choice. Yeah, he doesn't really want me to watch it, and I respect Peter Weir.
Sometimes it's just about pacing, though. Like, I mean, like all the scenes. Yeah, because all the scenes that it's cut from Terminator 2, for example, it was basically we had to just cut down the length, so this was just what made sense to cut.
Right.
The film.
Well,
still
apparently
Marlon,
the Noah Emmerich's character, like, actually does empathize with Truman, what he's going through at some point, and wants him to escape, and they took that out.
That'd be interesting. The idea that someone else goes. I guess you don't really need it though, because we still have like the main love interest who sympathizes with them.
And everybody watching, like everybody watching wants this to be the season finale, the series finale.
Yeah, they're there for the ending, for the 30-year TV show, because it's literally been on, because that's the whole point. It's in its 30th year. So obviously this is making him more and more crazy, and it's making him more and more kind of doubtful. And like you say, he basically the next morning, because his wife's going to work, he follows his wife to her job to prove that she's actually doing what she's supposed to do and actually being this nurse. And he he's right. And I actually really laughed here how in the hospital, to try and block him, like at one point there's like 3 people in wheelchairs and they actually try and like wheel in front of him to block.
Oh yeah, every path. Time he tries to run towards something, even when his dad gets taken away, like there's construction workers all of a sudden, a crowd shows up, like everybody is choreographed to block him all the time. It's really hilarious, actually. It's really well done. Yeah,
it's just funny. It's genuinely funny to watch how they try and stop him from doing things constantly. And when he gets there, there's this song. Do you remember me of, oddly, actually, in Galaxy Quest, when they're on the ship for the first time, the real ship, and they tell the character who like navigates, like, hey, take us out. The Geordie-esque character. I mean,
Tommy.
Yeah.
I think his name
is his Tommy?
Tommy Weber, I think is his name, but oh man, that's gonna bother me. I have to look it up. Ignore my loud keyboard.
His name's not super relevant, but
that's gonna bother me.
Yeah, okay. I meant to, he doesn't do the same role as Jordy. I guess I just always compared him to Jordy because he's got a very similar kind of look. Obviously, he's the one black character. He feels like he's the same kind of age. But anyway, the point I was making is that he is told to take the ship out, and obviously he's an actor. He's like, excuse me? I don't know how to drive a ship or pilot a ship. I suppose is the more accurate term. And
Tommy Weber, that's all it shows me.
There you go. So here, this moment reminded me of this, where Truman's made it into like the observation room for the operating, right?
And he sees his wife.
And they're standing there, and the actor playing the doctor is kind of like, okay, hand me the knife, and I'm going to make an incision here.
Scalpel?
Yeah. And you can tell they have no idea what they're doing, and he's just sort of winging it. And the person who's like on the table, who's also an actor, like tries to get up at one point, and someone else just like grabs the mask, like the gas mask, and just like, no, you stay down there. Anesthesia.
Yeah, it's like he wouldn't notice that she tried to leave all of a sudden because she's about to get cut. There's a real fun detail too, where like when it's over and Truman leaves, the doctor's like, somebody else can clean this up. Like, I think he really cut her.
Yeah, actually, I think what's good about that is that it's one of the few moments where it stays on the actors after Truman can't see them anymore, and gives us just a moment of them being like, "Oh crap, someone else has to fix this." Because what they do is they find that it's just to like shut the curtain, so they don't have to go any further beyond the first cut.
Yeah.
No, that stuff's really entertaining, and that's propels Truman to be like, okay, I want to go away. I want to like leave. He wants to leave right there and then, and you know he tries to book a ticket to travel, and she's like, "Oh, it's going to be a month before you can get a ticket." And this is where the posters are all of the planes and like struck by lightning.
So funny.
And then he's like, "Okay, I'll make other plans." So he tries to get a bus to Chicago, and like they almost leave without him. And again, it's a similar kind of moment with the driver where you can tell he knows he's not supposed to actually drive the bus, so he's just kind of like, "Okay, I guess I'll try," and then obviously the bus just kind of dies, and it's like, "Sorry everyone," and Truman's just left sitting there. The visual of him just waiting on the bus when everyone else has gotten off is just kind of sad.
Everyone else who are blatantly just extras are like totally silent and sitting on the bus and like perfectly organized and still, except for one little girl who's just like, "That's the guy." I love all the little like hints that have happened where people have screwed up, like the Christmas scene where a guy like pops out of a present when he's young. He's like, "I'm on the Truman Show."
Yeah. Oh, the person who parachutes in. Yeah, we see those later when they're talking about the close calls. Yeah, apparently people have been breaking out of this set. You'd think this dome would have better security.
Yeah. I looked it up before we started, but like his name is Burbank, and the dome is actually over the city of Burbank in
Oh, there you go.
behind the Hollywood sign.
There you go. So this is where he's really determined to go, and the bus doesn't work. He can't leave, and when his wife gets back from work and he's just sitting in the car, and she goes in, she's like, "Truman, honey, what do I do?" And she kind of like, and I was actually thinking, because she says, "Okay, you've been wanting to go to Fiji," which by the way I loved, because we actually kind of glossed over the flashbacks, because the flashbacks of the girl, because he's looking at the sweater at one point that he's got in the basement, and you know, it cuts to the barmaids, and they're kind of like, "Oh, they can take her out of the show, but they can't erase the memory." And we get the big long flashback of what happened. I'm surprised they'd want to show this on the show, to be honest. Like it almost would be admitting all their mistakes, you know?
They couldn't prevent it, and everybody knows that it's, you know, that this was a risk.
Yeah. And we see that, you know, and I mean, it's just kind of funny how old they all are. They're supposed to be in high school, but, you know, Truman kind of sees her over, you know, sitting by the tree, and he's kind of like looking at her, and she's looking back. There's clearly an attraction. There's a chemical reaction between them. Yeah. And then, of course, in comes the intended wife, just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I tripped on you. Oh, I'm such a klutz." And then they're at the prom, and he's staring at this other girl. He's staring at. I mean, we find out her real name later, Sylvia. I don't remember what her fake name was.
Laura or something. Lauren.
Yeah, maybe. But then he sees her in the library when they're in college, and he goes over and tries to talk to them. And at this point, she actually like, puts it on, because he asks her out for like pizza or whatever, and she's like, "We have to go now. If you set this up for later, it won't happen, because they'll." I shouldn't say this all out loud, obviously.
Yeah, she says it has to be now, or it will never happen.
Because they'll intervene. They'll just not let her back in. If anything, I'm surprised they let her in again at this point. And she runs down with the beach with them, and you know what? It actually made me angry how like the actor who plays the father like immediately gaslights her. "Oh, she's psychotic. She brings all the boys down here. You don't worry about it, son." And but I do love the reveal when he says, "We're moving to Fiji," and you're like, "That's why it's Fiji. That's why it's always Fiji."
Yeah.
It's such a, because he has like a thing with his best friend earlier on where he's like, oh, because he uses the opposite, like, "This is us here," and then Fiji's like the exact opposite part of the earth. It's the furthest you can go without coming back. And you're like, okay, that makes sense. But then there's this reveal, no, it's about her. It's all about her. He thinks she's there.
I love the flashback when he's in school and he tells the teacher what he wants to be when he grows up. "I want to be an explorer." And she goes, "Oh, honey, everything's already been explored."
It's so good. Do you know what I love about it? I love that the mom's like, "Oh, when am I getting a grandchild?" And I'm like, this could basically just be the real mom. Like, this doesn't need to be an act. This just feels like the real mother said, I want grandkids. Give me grandkids now. So he's in the car. She gets back from work, and she sits and she's like, you know what? You can go to Fiji. Save up for a couple of months, and we'll go to Fiji. And I started to think about it, like, would they try and fake it? Like, would they like build a separate set?
I wonder if they had like enough time.
Like, could they like sort of like get like a fake like sort of airplane set, sort of simulate what it'd feel like to fly, and then have like a place like either outside of the dome that's like a separate little dome where they do all these scenic areas or something. Like, would they try and fake it? Is that what she says? It was because she said, let's save up for a few months. Is that because they need a few months to build the set? Is that what that is?
Ah, that's crazy. There's another flashback scene where he's a kid and like climbing on the rocks, and his dad like at the beach. Yeah. And his dad's like, no, don't go up there. And he grabs it. He's like, wow, what's up there? And you can hear like construction sounds. They're clearly like still building sets while he's being filmed, at least back when he was a kid. Yeah. So maybe.
Yeah, that's just. I love about that scene actually is that all the people on the beach have all just stopped doing what they've all stopped acting. They're all just watching,
like staring.
Which I guess they did a lot more when he was like a toddler because they could get away with it because he wouldn't notice.
Right. Plus, like it's still a new show at that time too. So like, oh, is this going to end it? Is my career as an extra over?
Yeah. And obviously when he's sitting in the car here, he's like, hey, watch this. There's going to be a guy with flowers, and then there's going to be a woman jogger, and then there's going to be a car with a dent in it. Mm-hmm. All right. And he's like, oh, they're looping. And I'm like, this is almost video game.
That's what I was thinking of too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're on a loop. They just keep going round and round. And he's starting to notice that he's starting to see the codes in the Matrix, right? He's starting to see everything around him.
Isn't there a movie that's kind of like that coming out with Deadpool actor?
Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah. It's called like maybe? Guy or something, where he's like an NPC in a video game who gets conscious or something.
It sounds like a possible thing. I don't know about it, but it sounds.
Well, I'm sure it was supposed to come out by now, but.
Oh, well, like everything.
Ignore the loud clicky.
God. Oh my god! You know you're not allowed to type. Your keyboard's too loud, and you find out it's just to do it. That's twice now.
In this very show. Free Guy.
There you go.
2020 post-production. So we'll see if it's still 2020.
Yeah, well,
a bank teller discovers that he's actually an NPC inside a brutal open-world video game.
Well, literally, like multiple horror movies from Universal just get delayed to 2021, like a full year. Like The Purge. Not that I care about The Purge 5, but it got pushed from July 2020 to 2021. So, if you had any hopes of movies coming out in August, I'd give them up now.
This
September.
One's slated for the 11th of December this year.
It's got a chance.
Although the poster says July 3rd, so yeah, it should have been out by now.
Got a chance. Got a chance. So, so again, we're back in the car, right? I'll finish this car bit, goddammit, if it's the end of me. Tara will keep finding ways to tangent away. Yeah. Clickety, clack, clack. Look at my mechanical keyboard. Isn't it so great? Then I'm typing. Yeah.
It's so satisfying to use.
So, basically, he's like, let's just go right now. When she says let's get your future in a few months, he's like, let's go right now. And he just backs out the car and he's driving like a madman. He's because I love when he's going around the roundabout and he's just yelling out the window, "I'm being spontaneous."
Yeah, and it leads to a good scene because he's like, "Okay, let's take the bus," and he goes, and all of a sudden, all these cars pull out in front of him, and there's traffic. She's like, "Well, we'll never get there now," and then he goes back in the roundabout, and then comes back again, and the traffic's gone.
Yeah. Well, what I really like about this is that him saying I'm being spontaneous is kind of like, his entire life, even though he didn't realize it at first, is kind of on rails. It's on the predetermined path.
He has no free will.
Yeah. If anything, I would say that this almost is like the Westworld TV show could owe a lot to this movie in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Like the way he realizes that he's in like a story and he's in a loop is very like modern Westworld. Not the movie so much, but the TV show.
Sure. I mean, I think The Matrix, which came out like a year later, also has quite a bit of these themes in it too.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, so and then of course we get the Chernobyl block where the nuclear power plant is.
Reactor 4 is going to go.
Yeah, there's graphite everywhere. Well, actually, first there's the bridge, which he actually shuts his eyes and makes her steer.
Yeah.
And the actress playing the wife is at this point is just like, oh my god, I hate this. This is all dangerous. You're gonna kill me.
Yeah, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah. And of course he's willing to go back almost with the reactor, even though he's still skeptical about all this being bullshit. The cop accidentally calls him Truman, and he never told him his name.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, thanks for your help, officer. He's like, no problem, Truman. And he's like, Yeah. So he actually tries to run past multiple police officers, guys in hazmat suits, and gets knocked out and like arrested. And then he's just let off with a warning. Next time we'll have to press charges, ma'am. Oh, sure, yeah, because he wouldn't be arrested for this the first time.
They probably don't even have like a jail set on their lot.
Probably not. So, and this is where we get the great moment where she just randomly in the mid-conversation says, why don't we have some of these coffee beans? They're great. They come from the mountains of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and she brings up again the idea of, let's have a baby. He's like, why do you want a baby with me? You don't even like me.
Yeah, and she actually, because one of the first things she actually product places in the whole movie is this weird cheese grater thing, and she picks it up and like tries to like use it as self-defense, and she yells out, do something, and he's like, who are you? This is her first genuine slip-up, where she said something not to him, she said something to the people watching.
Yeah.
And he's like,
she felt like she was unsafe.
Yeah, who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? And then of course the best friend shows up with the beers, which is kind of the
he always walks in 6-pack first.
Yeah, it's the safety button. It's like to go back to Chernobyl. It's the what was the button called that was supposed to shut it all down?
I don't know. We'll have to watch it again.
Oh my god, I've forgotten that button. I can't believe I've forgotten it. But yeah, but
is it Z something?
Something 40, something 40.
40. Ah.
Yeah, damn it, so close. But he comes in and then he takes him to the pier. They're having drinks, and he gives him this emotional speech. Well, if everyone's in it, Truman, it means I'm in on it, and I'm not in on it because I'm your best friend.
I don't lie to you.
Yeah, he reminisces about various things they did as kids and blah blah blah. And
but
then
also we get a shot of the people in the background.
Yeah,
the puppet master.
And of course, this is where it actually finally reveals the puppet masters properly. And do you know what I love about it dramatically from a story point of view? Is that it does it at the most like over the top dramatic moment of the story in terms of their show, because they have like, hey, you were right about something, Truman, and he turns around and his homeless father is walking down the road, the mist behind him, and I love that it
take the mist down a little bit.
Yeah, I love that it cuts to Ed Harris like calling camera shots. He's like, okay, go to the wide shot now, swell the music, and he's like, he's like,
he's got like a pianist there, like
I love it, and I think it's fascinating to me because they think this is solved. They think this has fixed it, and he's back to his old self. Because the next thing we see of Truman on his own is him at the mirror, and he's like doing the soap like helmet and the reflection and pretending he's an astronaut. And it's like, oh, he's back to his old self. We're good. It's a disaster averted. And this is where we go to all these flashbacks where he's in the interview with Ed Harris, talking to the TV presenter and about his creation, how he wants to have the first ever live conception on air. Sylvia calls in and is like, oh, you've put him in a cage, because she's actually the leader of a movement. She's got like a political movement. You can see
the Free Truman like sign behind her.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with her, to be honest. She's got a point.
Yep.
And she insists that this is wrong, and he wants to shoot her down. Ed Harris he's a good talker. He knows how to sort of like take these things in the press. He's kind of the one you should worry about, because you get people in the press who are like, they're malicious but they're idiots, and you can kind of see through everything they're doing, whereas he's actually quite sly and knows how to talk, so he's almost the one that's more dangerous.
I love that he wears a beret because he's like an artist.
Yes, he's an artist.
It's kind of got that Steve Jobs vibe, like a genius artist, although I don't know if Steve Jobs would be known for wearing black turtlenecks by this point, but
for the record,
I can't help but think of it.
When I was making Westworld references, I was not even thinking about the Ed Harris connection. That's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Just a coincidence. But
there'll be another season.
There is another season, yes. I'm not really looking forward to it after season 3, but
I'll always look forward to a new season of Westworld, even if it is underwhelming.
Did you even watch the finale yet of season 3?
Maybe I'll watch it tonight.
Do you remember what happened in the second last episode?
I played a lot of Animal Crossing during it, so maybe I'll watch both of them tonight. But I remember most of it.
Yes, the veneer is crumbling.
They were not my favorites, but the first half of the season was great. So
I loved episode 5, and then it was all downhill.
And I am going to watch season 4, so I have to watch them.
Yeah, I mean, I will too, because I'll review it with Connor. But I mean, it's just, but anyway, so all this stuff is wonderful. I love all this, like the real world side of things. Like, I think it's when they're showing the romance flashbacks where the head bartender comes over to the two women who are just watching the TV and like, hey, you've got this in the greatest hit tapes. Get back to work. Like, you know.
Can I borrow that?
Yeah, I love those details. But one of my favorite moments is this is later when he's on the boat. But I love that the guy who's watching the bath is like emulating like the motion in the bath.
He just like I like the idea that he has his nightly routine of getting in the bathroom, just checking up on Truman, but it seems like he's in the bath for like the whole week that we're with Truman.
Yeah, although the one thing that confused me is Ed Harris keeps referring to episodes. The episode when you had your first step, the episode you did this, and I was like,
I imagine it's days, right?
Well, I imagine what they probably do is they probably like after each day edit down like a sort of like hour-long like highlight of that day, and that's the episode he's talking about. Okay, so this is so if you're hardcore, you can watch the 24-hour feed.
You can watch the live feed, yeah.
Yeah, but if you want just here's the key story beats in a nice contained format, that's the episodes. That's what your season box sets are, which they're up to season 30 now.
Right. So then it's just like every reality show.
Yeah. There you go. So. Imagine someone was like, you know what, Truman Show is my favorite show ever. I'm going to rewatch the whole thing.
Or they're just getting into it like, well, I have to catch up from years 1 through like 28.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. How do you catch up on a show like that?
You have to go with those edited versions. I mean, even the edited versions are like 365 hours a year. If you go an hour per day, so that's a lot of catching up. Yeah, you can't do it. It's like someone trying to catch up on a soap that's been running since the 60s 5 days a week. It's not possible.
No chance of catching up on General Hospital.
Yeah, you just can't do it. It's impossible. So, but all this is wonderful, and they're in this kind of false sense of security because they think they've solved the problem. They've got this arrogance that, this has worked again, we've done it.
Yeah, well, he goes and does his regular routine. He says hi to the neighbors with his catchphrase.
Yeah.
And he goes to work and he does a good job and he's putting a smile on. And it is one of those moments where like maybe he could just like accept that this is his life. But now, like, is it worth watching? Because,
but again, it's like Maven Westworld, right? She's pretending until she has her moment and then she can do her plan, right? You know, it's just very kind of similar. And he plays this trick.
Instead of a girlfriend on the other side, it's a daughter.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And he and I do like whenever it cuts to the real Sylvia, where like she sees him with the photograph that he's tried to make, and she can see that she's happy about it. I mean, I still think it looks really creepy, but she's heartwarmed by it.
Yeah, like he's got nothing of her except for the sweater he's kept. Oh, and at work, like they've announced on the interview with Ed Harris that like, they're going to be going through a divorce because clearly the marriage isn't working.
Yes.
And they're going to introduce a new lady, and this hot girl shows up at work, and she's wearing the red sweater, the same one.
Yeah, it's a nice touch.
She kind of has some similar features to what was her name? Sylvia?
Imagine taking this job, because you're not just taking an acting job. Like, do you know what the main roles in this show are for? It's for your weird, like actors who love to be in character all the time.
Daniel Day-Lewis would definitely be in this. Yeah,
Jared Leto, unfortunately, would probably want to be in this. Jared Leto will be like, if you ever want a serial killer plot, I'm your serial killer. That's what Jared Leto wants to play.
Yeah, they definitely have to build a prison then.
Yeah. So, but he does this thing where he sort of like pretends to go to sleep in the basement, and they kind of miss the fact that he sneaks out. Although, if I have a complaint, if I have one complaint about this movie, is that they commit the cardinal sin of the enhance on the video feed.
Yeah,
like Ed
they
Harris,
Blade Runner it.
Zoom in and enhance, and it's like, nah, come on, no.
They even say enhance.
Yeah. The funny thing is that, like, well, the enhancing wouldn't work, but at least, like, we're at a point now, if let's say it's a 4K camera, you can zoom in pretty far and it'll still look pretty clear, because it's 4K, right? We're at a high enough resolution. But this is 1998, plus, there's no enhancing. If you zoom in, it looks like shit.
And night vision. Like, it doesn't look good.
No. So, He also kind of pulls a bit of a Shawshank as well, because
We'll just put all the movies in. Yeah.
because they send the best friend round as like a sort of like panic button, right? And he comes in with the beer. He's got the 6-pack. He's like, "Buddy, I got brewskis," and he's like,
surprise hangout party.
Yeah, and I did love like he's talking to him over the headset, and he's like, "Okay, yeah, keep it light, keep talking, make it a game, keep things entertaining." And of course, they find the hole in the cupboard. He's dug out into the garden, and he pops his head up, and he's like, "What do you want me to do?" He's gone.
So like, don't talk in the camera.
Yeah,
people are watching this.
And it becomes this like search party, like someone's been murdered, where all the extras and townsfolk are all like walking in rows looking for him. Mm-hmm. And even at the point, like, hey, it's hard to find him in the dark. Bring up the sun. It's too early for that. Bring up the sun, damn it. I am God. Bring up the sun.
Yep.
That's basically the attitude. I liked how it looked kind of different though. So like, see when the sun came up and you see it hitting the people in the street, it was very bright like the sun, but it did look fake. Like it didn't look like. I get the impression that maybe there is some sort of real daylight that kind of comes through as well, that kind of makes it look more authentic, because the way the light hit the town, it kind of felt like this looks like a big light hitting a stage rather than the natural daylight that it was before. Right. And I feel like that's maybe an intentional little, deviation from before, which is cool. But of course, he's on a boat, and Ed Harris eventually realizes we're not watching the war. He's on a boat, and this is when he hits him with waves. He hits him with everything, and
Truman seems to be okay with being in the water all of a sudden.
Yeah. And there's a point where they think they might have killed him, and I'm like, man, if they did, I'd almost want a sequel about the criminal investigation of like Ed Harris murdering this man live on TV. But they're all relieved when he gets up, and I love because that super hopeful piano music comes in, and I love how it abruptly cuts when the boat hits the wall, when it hits the edge.
It's such a great moment when it's like the mast or something goes through the backdrop of the horizon of sky, because it's such a peaceful moment, and then crash.
Yeah. And he's walking along the edge of the wall. He tries to punch his way through it briefly. And actually, do you know my favorite little detail oddly about this is that I loved that the paint on this backdrop, and then especially when he gets to the stairs, because there's stairs sort of built into it, but it's sort of disguised so you can't see the stairs from a distance. Is that the paint's actually pretty dirty. You can tell they've not been out here and redid this in a long time. It looks like it's been there for a while, and there's sort of dark marks.
Well, this is a real set in Universal Studios, and if you ever do the Hollywood back tour, they will take you through that setup, and they use it in all sorts of films. Like they use it in obviously this film, and I think in Apollo 13 when the capsule lands in the water, they use it for that. Yeah. So yeah, it's a real backdrop that exists for filming in many films.
Yeah, because most films need it, or not most, but many films need an ocean scene, so why not use a backdrop like this? I do love that it's one that is actually used to look convincing in other movies, but here it's like, no, here's how fake it is. This is what this is. But he walks up these stairs, and Ed Harris, there is one little clunky bit of editing here. There's a line from Ed Harris before he talks to him saying, "I want to talk to him." And he says it when his back's turned to the camera, and it feels like an 80-yard line that was added in to just...
I think I noticed that also.
Yeah. And I felt like, I don't even know if you need it, we'd get it. He starts talking to him, he's got a mic, it's fine. It's not confusing. But of course, Truman turns around and looks up to the sky, and it literally feels like the voice of God, because it's coming from the clouds, it's coming from up above. And he basically tries to talk him into staying. He's like, hey, I created this world, it's safe in here, and this is as real as anything you'll get out there, and you'll be, you'll have everything you ever want in here. Don't leave, you can't leave, Truman. This is my world.
Yeah, but it's strange because he said, was anything real? And Ed Harris says, well, you were real. That's what made you so fun to watch, or so great to watch. But now he knows it's fake. So if he stays, he won't be real anymore. And would people watch that show? Or maybe he would agree to have a kid, but then he's condemning his kid to be that way.
Yeah,
to have that life of a lie.
In and of itself is kind of a poignant kind of idea. He doesn't want his child to suffer. I mean, none of this is brought up directly, because it's not like he's actually considering having a kid at this point at all. But when you raise that question, if he did agree to that, it would be condemning his kid to the same thing he went through. And there's kind of something inspirational, but no, I want a better world for me, and then any kids I do have, it'll be real, and they'll have a real chance of life. And obviously it keeps cutting back to the crowd at this point, and they're all like paying attention, especially Sylvia, who smiles dearly because they pay this moment off wonderfully, where there's a pause as he's like, you think he's deciding what he's going to do, and the door's already open in front of him from the start of this, and he turns around and says, he basically takes a bow after it as well, which I love, but he says, in case I don't see you,
good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah. And takes a bow and walks out. And everyone's kind of cheering. Sylvia's running down the stairs to obviously go meet him as quick as she can. And it goes off the air. It finally goes off the air, and everyone's kind of, and it ends in this really sort of like sad little joke where like the security guard's like, "Oh, what else is on? It was a TV guide."
Yeah. It's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, I don't think it's the sole point of the movie. I don't think the whole point of the movie is just to build up to that, like, oh, people are this kind of like that disposable to them. But
they still just see him as a TV show and a TV character and entertainment, and not a real person.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the ultimate point of the movie. I think it's a fun little add-on at the end, but it's not really. Yeah. The story is important. The story is real. Everything it's saying about Truman as a character and him being in this fake world and. The control and so yeah, you've got the human side of analysis from Truman, and you've got the corporate like control and the ethics of that and all that stuff, and just something as simple like his first kiss, whoever that was with, like that was a fabricated moment that he didn't get to choose. Like his first everything, and
his friends.
There's a cutaway at one point where it's the security guard's complaining. He's like, you're not going to see any of the sex anyway. They always like cut to like the curtain in the window blowing in the wind or something, and they'll play some music.
You can't help but think like, well, he probably masturbates too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, it has to. Like, did they pump in porn? Like, is porn available on his? We never see music. Well,
maybe that's why he has to create women for magazines.
Yeah. But the sad part is, though, is that even if it's not being broadcast, the people in that control room can all see all the camera feeds. They can see everything. So there's at least a few dozen people at any given time watching him have sex every time he has sex. And it's fascinating that the actress agreed to this. Like, yeah, like, we're all going to see it. It won't be broadcast, but there's going to be an audience seeing it. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Pretty gross and horrific, depending on how you film the scenes.
Yeah.
But there's always this really colorful light of like euphoric light around everything, where it's like, this is a utopia and his life is really great, so we don't need to interfere.
So now in the movie, I mean, it's an uplifting ending. Obviously the final little joke's a little bit cynical, but the actual ending is very happy because he does break out of his cage. And I do love,
we see that Lauren or Sylvia has like also run away with excitement, like he's gonna meet up with him. Yeah,
I do kind of love that we never see him outside though. I love that like once he's left this dome, we don't get to see what his life is anymore because it's not for us to see. It's now his...
even when he opens the door, it's just black. We don't see what's behind it.
Because even though we're not we're not the same as the viewers watching the show in the movie, I do love that parity with them where once he's left that set, it's private to him. We don't get to see it because now it's his life. And we shouldn't get to see that. It's a wonderful little touch in the direction. Like, there's so many little touches in the directorial choices throughout the film that I just love. It's kind of the perfect execution of an idea. Like the idea is really good, but it's like everything they decide to do.
I mean, in the Twilight, if this were like a Twilight Zone episode, it would have been like we get the reveal, the twist, and then it's over. But we get the reveal really early in the film, and it's just watching him play out his life and try to escape. That's the movie.
Yeah. It's wonderful, and I think obviously Carrey's performance is wonderful. Ed Harris, I think, is excellent in this role. I think this was kind of like the perfect Ed Harris role.
And Laura Linney's performance made me not like her for a while, but she is really great.
Yeah. Actually, one thing that I noticed is when they're doing the search party stuff, the new love interest is actually in the search party, but Laura Linney's not there. It's just little things like that. I continuity, because I love that you see the twins, the two old guys. They've got like earpieces, like, we can't find the son of a bitch. Like,
they don't like him.
Yeah, it's so different from their characters who are like, hey Truman, we're here today. They've got that thing where they both talk like really quickly off each other. Very Chuckle Brothers in a lot of ways. I know you don't know who that is, but
no, but you've brought them up before.
Yes, Vision, Vision, Vision.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Hey, the dozens of people who got that reference will love it.
There are dozens of us. Dozens. More people got that reference.
That's true, yes. Arrested Development's a bit more contemporary, but for a generation in the UK, the Chuckle Brothers, in fact, multiple generations, they were doing kids' TV for like 30 years. So I mean, generations way past mine were still into them. But hey, that is the Truman Show. I think ultimately it's like a really, it's really heartfelt. I think because there's a lot of really seedy things. Like if you wanted to make this more of a dark like thriller, like really focus on how skeevy it is, you could have done so, but it kind of focused it through the lens of how the show's creator and how it's presented to the public, how they wanted to feel this idyllic thing. So it has this kind of like sadness and bittersweetness to it, but there's this kind of hopeful breakout. I think it does a good job of emulating what the audience members watching the show and the movie are feeling, and it makes us feel those similar feelings watching the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
But we feel more in the know than they do. I mean, they know it's fake, but we feel more, I guess, we feel smarter than they do, because we were watching it from the perspective of, like, you know, just because we're better. All right? We're not dumb movie characters, all right? We're better. I'm definitely better than the guy in the bath. I'll say that.
I mean, reality TV is still like a money-making genre of TV. The Kardashians are still like, I think I said Kardashian. Kardashians are still like rolling in dough and
yes,
putting everything on.
Kardashians are a Star Trek race, just for the record.
I know, it's hard not to mix them up.
Well, it's very
Kardashian.
Similar. It's like one letter. It's one letter of a difference. Let's be honest. So, no, the movie's wonderful, and I think every time I see it, I like it just a little bit more.
Yeah,
it
I think it's great too.
Yeah, every time I see it, all these little details, I notice a few more of them, and all the ones that I did notice before still work, and everything just kind of, it's one that ages better and better every time I see it. So, it's very hard to fault it or say very little anything bad about it, to be honest, outside of the enhance and a weird bit of ADR in one scene.
Both Ed Harris moments.
They are, actually. I don't blame him personally, though.
I wouldn't either.
No. Yeah, besides, you know, Ed Harris. I mean, it's not the role I think of Ed Harris first, because the role I think of Ed Harris first is The Abyss, because that's the first time I saw Ed Harris in something. And really who he was. So,
Abyss and The Rock.
Yes, I didn't see that until much later, but yeah, he's good in The Rock. Yes. So, yeah, there you go. That's Truman Show. I guess we're at the point where we're going to rate the movie. So, what are you going to rate it?
Well, you know, I have to go pretty high on it because there isn't really anything I can fault it on. I think it is not. I mean, I mentioned in the beginning, but I don't think this is just holds up. I think it's aged really well, and as we move forward in technology, like, privacy is so precious, and this movie should make you paranoid about how many cameras you have in your room, you know, or in your house, or always on. And I think it's masterfully directed and performed, and I think the choices that were made for the way it looks is like makes it more compelling, and it kind of makes it family friendly. It's like a family friendly horror movie and comedy. I think this movie is really great. So I was starting at a 9 after I watched it, but I think I'm gonna bump it up to 9.5 after we talked about it, because I really don't think that there's anything wrong with this film.
Oh yeah. Yes, this is an interesting one, because probably something you won't agree with, because you love Master and Commander, and I really like Master and Commander, but I think Truman Show is my favorite Peter Weir movie. And I never really thought about it in the context of it being like a Twilight Zone episode until this viewing, probably just because we've been doing Twilight Zone.
We watch a lot of that show.
But it kind of is like a perfect, you know, it's kind of like, it's weird to say that this and Jordan Peele's movies go together as examples of modern movies that kind of embody what the Twilight Zone was, in different ways. They're different types of Twilight Zone episodes, but they're both Twilight Zone episodes, or all three are Twilight Zone episodes, I should say, because I'm talking about two Jordan Peele movies. But no, it's wonderful. So I will. I think I'm going to go for parity here and say 9.5 as well.
Whoa. Big day.
Hey, you know what? If they're going to vote us to do an extra movie, I can't be mad when we both give it an 8.5.
Yeah, right?
I can't be mad. Like,
I'm surprised because, you know, like I said, I haven't seen this since the theater, and I've never had the desire to rewatch it, probably because I remember it so well. Like, it just after one viewing, it's, you know, I got everything from it, but I'm glad I did. Like, I thought that the film didn't have a very good reputation for some reason, that people were disappointed by it. But I was wrong. Like, it's really highly rated.
Yeah, it's got a healthy rating on IMDb. I think Rotten Tomatoes scores pretty healthy.
Yeah, it's like a 93 or something
Yeah.
on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's hard to fault it. Jim Carrey really does have like a nice little trio of like really good movies that aren't his, like, you know, 90s comedies. Like, he kind of moved
Eternal
into...
Sunshine is another, like,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll do it eventually, but it's pretty up there.
One that we probably wouldn't do, although technically the title is Man in the Moon. I mean, that sounds like a sci-fi movie, but that's a movie as well that I didn't like that much when I first saw it as a kid, but when I watched that as a later on in life, I loved that movie. Like, I thought it was it was a great story of this guy who at the time
Great soundtrack too.
I didn't know who what was his name, Andy Kaufman was at the time, but later
Not even
on,
from God Told Me To.
I hadn't seen that yet. Don't get me wrong. When I saw God Told Me To, I knew Andy Kaufman was.
Thank you very much.
So no, that's it. Yeah, we'll do Eternal Sunshine at some point. That's, again, it's another kind of like low key sci-fi movie. It's more sci-fi than this one, I guess, because it's got a bit more of a sort of ethereal quality to it. But you know, they're both thought provoking sci-fi rather than we're going to have big spaceships and time travel sci-fi, I guess. But sci-fi all the same. I think that's.
When are we going to do
too.
Witness with Harrison Ford?
I mean, I guess the Amish are kind of sci-fi.
That movie holds up.
So there you go. That is the Truman Show. If you made it this far in the review, put the word. Actually, one final point I want to make. I love that the old ladies who watch the show have like commemorative plates of like his wedding, like, because obviously his wedding was
and
broadcast.
they're wearing the same like pajamas that Laura Linney's character was wearing too, because they said everything in the show is for sale.
Yeah, everything's product placement because they have no ads. It's all product placement, and so they've got plates. They've got photos of his wedding, of his like all these like, big moments in his life behind them. I love the merchandise part of it. It's great. All right, so if you made it to this point of the review, made it this far to the end, in the comments, put the word Fiji in the comments. Fiji. There you go. Put that in
Makes
there.
sense.
And I'm going to get Tara to pose for the thumbnail now, so make sure the top of your head's not cut off. I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, and so.
Oh, is that too? No, it's okay.
That's fine. It's fine. All right, 3, 2, 1, pose. Let's go with a straight smile for this one.
Yeah, it's good. It's great. Even great film.
Yeah. Okay. No, I could get behind it. All right. So there we go. That has been Truman Show. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Please, if you're on YouTube, please do like. Liking is really important. It helps us out a lot, and lets YouTube know that we're worth recommending out, so more people will find us. So it is super, super important. Of course, we mentioned Patreon earlier. Patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can support us over there financially. And of course, you can get us on Twitter at the Ace Podcast if you want to follow us on there for updates and clips and all that kind of jazz. Of course, Tara, would you like to recommend any other MailFuzz TV content that you think people should watch?
Sure. Well, we've already brought up the Twilight Zone that we're watching it. We're also watching the new Twilight Zone season 2 of the CBS All Access series, so you can watch it along with us. All the episodes have been released for the show, but we're working through it 1 week at a time, so it's all we can take.
Yes.
So watch it with us.
Yes, very much the opposite of this movie review, where I will be exceedingly negative for the vast majority of that. You've been warned.
And if you like the Twilight Zone, I've been, somewhat positive on it.
I mean, borderline positive. There's maybe a more. You play good cop just to balance us out, but you really don't like it that much.
I mean, I'm never gonna watch him again.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. And Tara's seen some crap like a lot of times.
I've seen some shit.
Yeah. All right, that is us. That has been the Atomic Cinema Experiment. This has been a kind of an extra episode slotted in between two of the regular episodes. So last time we told you the next movie coming up was going to be What Happened to Monday, and that is still true at the end of this one. That is going to be the next episode. This is just slotting in between. So there you go. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching science fiction movies and computer at Salsa.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.